Snow fell like it was trying to erase footprints before anyone could follow them. Tanjiro kept his smile steady as he walked through the butterfly estate courtyard. Hands folded politely, shoulders relaxed, every detail of normal placed carefully on his body like a robe. The girls greeted him. Someone laughed. A kettle hissed in the distance. It should have been peaceful. But his eyes wouldn't behave. They flickered. Not with fear, not with exhaustion. With something sharp, hungry, wrong. Gone in a blink, then back again. Like a lantern flame catching a draft. Tanjiro looked down at his hands, willing them not to tremble. His breath came out warm in the cold air, but inside his chest, something colder moved, coiling, listening. Just one night, he reminded himself, the promise he'd carved into his own bones. One night, and then it ends. His fingers brushed his Hanafuda earrings as if they were an anchor. The familiar wooden paperweight against his skin steadied him, and the design, rising sun, red and white, pulled a thread of warmth through the darkness. He lifted his head. Someone called his name. Tanjiro turned with practiced gentleness, and saw a core member flinch, just slightly, at the look in his eyes. Tanjiro's smile didn't falter, but inside, he felt it. A quiet crack spreading. That night, Nezuko's breathing went thin. It wasn't the usual fragile sleep of a demon holding back hunger. This was different. Her skin cold, her lips pale, her chest barely moving as if the world itself had decided she'd had enough. Tanjiro knelt beside her futon, hands hovering like he was afraid to touch her, and make her vanish. Shinobu's herbs filled the room with a clean bitterness that stung his nose. Outside, wind worried at the paper walls. Shinobu's voice had been calm earlier, too calm. Her condition is deteriorating, she'd said, eyes bright and clinical. You know what that means. I know, Tanjiro had whispered. Jiayu had stood in the corner, silent as a blade in a sheath, watching Tanjiro like he was measuring the distance between mercy and duty. And then Nezuko had made a small sound, barely more than a sigh, and Tanjiro's world tightened until he could hardly breathe. He pressed his forehead to the floor, nails digging into the tatami. Please, not to the Hashira, not to the core, to anything that listened. And something did. The forbidden power came like a whisper against his ear, sweet and terrible, offering an answer wrapped in poison. One night, it promised. One night, and she lives. Tanjiro didn't remember deciding. He only remembered the smell that followed, faint, metallic, like blood on winter air, light enough to be imagined, strong enough to make his stomach roll. His eyes burned, his heartbeat changed, and somewhere deep inside, a door that should never open, clicked. Morning came, and the world pretended it hadn't noticed. Tanjiro stood with a training group near the woods, demonstrating footwork with careful precision. The snow under his sandals crunched, breaths puffed white, swords hissed from sheaths. He moved like he always did, patient, encouraging, warm. But the forbidden power sat behind his ribs, pressing against his lungs like a second breath. A scream cut through the air. Not from the estate. From the road. Tanjiro's head snapped up. His nose caught it before his ears fully did. The scent of fear, sharp and sour, and behind it the faint rot sweetness of demon. The trainees froze. Someone swore. The woods seemed to lean closer, listening. Tanjiro ran. He should have called for backup. He should have waited for a Hashira. But the scream came again, closer, and Tanjiro's body moved the way it always had when someone was in danger. They found a cart overturned in the snow. A family huddled behind it. A demon crouched on the road, pale hands flexing, eyes gleaming like wet stones. Stay back! Tanjiro barked to the trainees. The demon lunged. Tanjiro drew his blade, and met it. Steel ringing, sparks flaring, his lungs filled with cold air. And he reached for water, breathing by instinct. It came. And then, beneath it, something else surged. Not like fire, not like water, like a shadow that had learned to swim. Tanjiro's grip tightened. His vision sharpened, until he could see snowflakes suspended like tiny stars. The demon's movements slowed, as if the world itself had decided Tanjiro was the faster creature now. No, Tanjiro thought, panic spiking. Not here, not in front of them. But the demon was too strong, too close to the family. The cart shook as claws scraped wood. One wrong second and Tanjiro let the forbidden power flood his limbs. The air snapped. He vanished from where he stood, reappearing between the demon and the family with a speed that made the trainees gasp. His sword arc was perfect, clean, controlled. No wasted motion. And he struck in a way that drove the demon back without a spray of anything, without spectacle. Just a decisive, terrifying dominance. The demon stumbled, startled. Tanjiro's eyes met its, For the first time in his life, the demon flinched from him. A low sound vibrated in Tanjiro's chest, almost a growl, almost a laugh. He swallowed it like a sin. The trainees stared. One of them, young Freckles, shaking hands, whispered, "Kamato." Tanjiro forced his voice steady. "Get them out of here." The demon tried to bolt into the trees. Tanjiro moved again, too fast, too silent, stopping it with a heel in the snow, and the edge of his blade at its throat. Not killing. Not yet. Just holding it there, like a predator deciding whether to eat. The demon's eyes widened in fear. "What are you?" Tanjiro's fingers twitched. His earrings brushed his jaw as he breathed, the Hanafuda design flashing at the edge of his vision like a reminder of who he was supposed to be. He let the demon go. It fled into the woods, terrified. The family sobbed, alive. The trainees didn't cheer. They backed away from Tanjiro as if he'd become a different kind of threat. Tanjiro's chest tightened. The power receded, but it left a cost behind, as if it demanded payment. His throat burned. His stomach twisted. And for a heartbeat, he wanted something he didn't have words for. Tanjiro clenched his jaw until the urge broke. A short, powerful line formed in his mind, and he hated how true it felt. A monster isn't born. It's chosen. One desperate breath at a time. Jiayu found him by the river that afternoon. The water ran black beneath ice, whispering against stone. Tanjiro stood with his hands in his sleeves, staring at the current like it might carry his secret away. Jiayu approached quietly. The snow didn't dare crunch under him. "You smell different," Jiayu said. Tanjiro's heart dropped. He didn't turn. "Do I?" Jiayu's voice remained even, but Tanjiro could hear the strain under it. "Like a demon." "Not fully, but enough." Tanjiro closed his eyes. The cold air tasted sharp. He reached up and touched his Hanafuda earrings again. They were warm from his skin. They had been with him through grief, through training, through every vow he'd made in the dark. "If I tell you," Tanjiro whispered, "will you kill me?" Jiayu didn't answer right away. That silence was heavier than any blade. Finally, Jiayu said, "Why?" Tanjiro's voice cracked. Nezuko was dying. Jiayu's breath fogged in the air. His jaw tightened once, then released. One night, Tanjiro startled. "You how?" Jiayu's gaze stayed on the river. "I'm not blind. And I've seen what you are." Tanjiro swallowed hard. "I didn't want it. I still don't." Jiayu's hand shifted near his sword. "Not drawing. Just remembering it was there." "The core won't care," Jiayu said quietly. "I know," Tanjiro replied. Jiayu's eyes flicked to Tanjiro's earrings. Something softened for a fraction of a second. Then duty returned like winter. "I should report you," Jiayu said. Tanjiro nodded once, as if accepting a sentence. "Then do it." Jiayu's voice lowered. "If I do, they'll come for Nezuko too." Tanjiro's stomach twisted. She didn't choose this. Jiayu's expression was hard, but his hesitation was real raw. "Neither did you," he admitted. Tanjiro's throat tightened until words hurt. A second quotable line slipped out, small but steady. "If loving her is a crime, then let my name be guilty." Jiayu closed his eyes for a brief moment, like someone praying without believing in gods. Then he turned away. Not leaving, just choosing delay. The public reveal came anyway. Tanjiro should have known secrets didn't survive in a world built on scent. They brought him to the courtyard at dusk, snow drifting through lantern light. Core members formed a ring, faces tense, hands on hilts, breath loud in the cold. Hashira stood at the center like pillars holding up judgment. Shinobu's smile was polite. Her eyes were not. Tanjiro's gaze found Nezuko behind a screen door, watched by guards. She pressed her hands against the wood, eyes wide. A small sound trapped in her throat. Tanjiro's chest squeezed. His earrings brushed his neck as he turned his head. The Hanafuda pattern catching the lantern glow like a tiny sunrise in a night that wanted to swallow it. Shinobu stepped forward. "Kamato Tanjiro," she said, "you've been exposed to demonic influence." A murmur rolled through the crowd. Tanjiro's hands curled into fists. He kept his voice gentle. "I didn't hurt anyone." "That's not the point," Shinobu replied. Her tone sharpened like a needle. "The moment you become what we hunt, the rules change." A Hashira shifted. A trainee Tanjiro recognized looked sick with fear. Jiayu stood slightly apart, expression unreadable. But Tanjiro could feel his presence like a hand on the back of his collar, protective, conflicted. Shinobu's gaze pinned Tanjiro. "We need a decision. Here. Now." Tanjiro's breath shook. "Decision? Execution," Shinobu said softly, as if discussing medicine. "Or containment. Or exile if we can justify it." The word execution landed like a rock. Nezuko made a muffled sound behind the door. Tanjiro took a small step forward. It was one night. Shinobu's smile widened. And it was the kind of smile that hurt. And what happens the second night? The third? When the power asks for a larger price, Tanjiro's stomach churned as if the forbidden power heard her and stirred, curious. He forced his voice calm. I won't let it. A low, distant laugh threaded through the air. No one else reacted at first. Tanjiro did. His nose caught it. Ancient, cold, and faintly floral, like a garden planted over graves. Muzan wasn't here. Not physically, but his presence slid across Tanjiro's senses like oil on water. Hello, the whisper said inside his skull, smooth as silk. Little hero. Tanjiro's knees threatened to buckle. He kept his face still, but his eyes flickered again, the wrong light trying to surface. Shinobu watched him closely. Do you feel it? Tanjiro swallowed. Yes. The whisper continued, intimate as breath. They'll never trust you again. Why beg for a cage when you can choose freedom? Tanjiro's fingers twitched. Muzan's voice purred. You saved her with power. Imagine what you could do with more. Tanjiro's pulse thundered. Snow hissed softly as it landed on steel. He thought of Nezuko's small hands, her stubborn warmth, her humanity. He touched his Hanafuda earrings again. Hard enough to sting. They weren't just a memory. They were a promise. Tanjiro lifted his head, meeting Shinobu's gaze. I want to speak, he said. Shinobu's eyes narrowed. Then speak. Tanjiro's voice trembled. But it didn't break. Muzan is listening. A ripple of unease moved through the crowd. Tanjiro continued, forcing air into his lungs like it was a choice he had to make every second. He wants me to snap. He wants me to become proof that humans can't resist. If you kill me here, he wins twice. He takes me, and he takes your hope. Shinobu's expression didn't soften. And if we let you live, you might become his weapon? Tanjiro nodded. That's why I won't stay. A murmur rose, anger, fear, confusion. Muzan's whisper curled, amused. Run, then. Hide. Become what you are. Tanjiro closed his eyes for a heartbeat. Then, quietly, he answered Muzan in his own mind. No. The demons came that same night. As if Muzan wanted to punctuate the conversation. A cluster, fast and clever, striking at the estate's outer edges. Lanterns swung. Snow exploded beneath sprinting feet. Steel sang. Corps members scrambled into formation, and for a moment Tanjiro saw the old rhythm, the coordination, the courage, the fragile hope he'd fought for. Then he saw a young slayer slip on ice, a demon's claws reaching. Tanjiro moved before anyone could shout. The forbidden power surged like a tide. For a terrifying second, Tanjiro felt it tried to claim him, to make him forget names and faces, and replace them with hunger. He gritted his teeth and forced his mind into focus. The smell of snow, the sound of breath, the weight of his earrings against his skin. Nezuko's name, like a candle. Tanjiro's sword flashed. Not wild. Not cruel. Brilliant. He used water breathing with a precision that felt like the edge of dawn, weaving in that forbidden speed only as much as necessary. Saving the fallen slayer, deflecting strikes, shepherding civilians back behind barriers. He never chased, never toyed, never indulged. Each movement was controlled restraint made visible. The demons recoiled, not because they feared his blade, but because they sensed what he was holding back. When the last demon fled into the trees, the courtyard was silent, except for ragged breathing, and the soft patter of snow. Tanjiro stood in the lantern light, chest heaving, eyes bright with wrongness, and still Tanjiro. Shinobu stepped forward, face unreadable. Jiayu's hand hovered near his sword, unsure whether to draw it in protection or necessity. Tanjiro looked at them all. He could taste the fear in the air. He could also taste the hope he'd protected. A third quotable line rose in him, and he spoke it aloud, steady as a vow. I won't become your nightmare just to keep my miracle. The courtyard held its breath. Later, when dawn smeared pale color across the snow, Tanjiro stood at the gate. His pack was light. His blade was clean. His heart felt heavier than any mountain. Nezuko stood behind the screen door again, hands pressed to the wood. Her eyes were wet, wide, human in the way that mattered most. Tanjiro lifted his hand, palm against the gate, mirroring her through the barrier. I'm sorry, he whispered. Nezuko shook her head hard, a small sound breaking in her throat. Jiayu stood to the side, watching the road. Shinobu watched Tanjiro like she was trying to solve him. You're choosing exile, Shinobu said. Not a question. To protect us. Tanjiro nodded. To protect her. To protect everyone. If I stay, Muzan will keep pulling. And one day, I might slip. Shinobu's eyes narrowed. Or you might die alone? Tanjiro's smile was soft and exhausted. That's okay. He reached up and touched his Hanafuda earrings one last time before stepping out. Their weight was familiar, comforting, heartbreaking. They had meant family once, then legacy, then hope. Now they meant direction. A sunrise you walked toward, even when you couldn't bring it home. Tanjiro bowed, deep, respectful, final. Then he turned and walked into the falling snow, footprints forming behind him like a path the world would try to erase. Behind the gate, Nezuko's hand remained pressed to wood long after he was gone, and Tanjiro didn't look back again, because if he did, he wasn't sure he'd be strong enough to keep walking.